In this lesson, we're going to find a new way to talk about distance in and around a circle. But where you're used to seeing degrees, we are now going to talk about radian measure, or radians. So the radian measure of an angle theta, is defined as the length, A, of the arc around the circle divided by the radius, R, of the circle. So that can be used in this formula here. For one complete revolution, so going around this circle one time, the length of the arc, that length of the arc A, equals the circumference, and we know that as 2 pi r. So based on simplifying this formula, we can come to the conclusion that one complete revolution measures 2 pi radians, So where we are used to seeing 360 degrees, in radian measure, it is 2 pi radians. So since we're used to seeing degrees, we're now going to be moving into radians. It's important to come up with a way to convert back and forth between degrees and radians. So let's take a look at this. As we've known before, one whole revolution of a circle, in degrees is 360 degrees, But now we're going to be looking at it in radians. So let's compare that formula. So we've got 360 degrees, and based on this explanation, that is the same, I'll use color, that is the same as 2 pi radians, So let's first solve for degrees. So the way we're going to figure out the conversion, we've got our two ratios here, and we're going to isolate for one specific piece, depending on the measurement. So we can rearrange this to find what 1 degree equals, or we can rearrange this to find what 1 radian equals. So it's kind of bringing it down to a unit rate that you would have seen back in grade 9 or 10. So let's start with degrees. So we're going to isolate and find out the unit rate for 1 degree. So what can we divide 360 by to get 1? Well, we'd have to divide 360 by the number itself, 360 degrees. And that on this side would give me 1. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So we are also going to divide this side by 360. I don't actually want that degrees there because I want to keep that unit. So 360 degrees divided by 360 leaves me with 1 degree, which is exactly what we want, that unit rate. But over here, I've got 2 pi divided by 360. Well, and it's going to be denoted as radians. So we can reduce this fraction, It doesn't have to be 2 pi over 360, but we do want to be as exact as possible. So I'm going to leave that pi in there. I can reduce this 2 and 360. So if I divide that by 2, I get 1. If I divide 360 by 2, that leaves me with 180. So what is this next line going to give me? I've got 1 degree equals, what do we have left? Pi over 180 radians. So now that is my unit rate. I know for every 1 degree, it equals pi over 180 radians. And I'm going to use this to convert from degrees to radians. And you'll see how that formula works in the next little box, okay? But it's basically you take whatever the degree measure you're given, and you'll be multiplying it by pi 180. So we'll see that in the next example. But we've figured out the unit rate for degrees. But what about the other way around? What if we wanted to find the unit rate for radians? So let's do that again. I'll take 360 degrees. That is equal to 2 pi radians. Okay. Now, instead of isolating for the unit rate for degrees, we're going to find the unit rate for the radians. Well, what did we do over here? In order to get this 360 to equal our unit rate of 1, we divided by the very number that we have, 360. Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing here because 2 pi is really just a number, the same way that 360 is just a number. So if I want to find the unit rate, or 1 single radian, I'm going to divide both sides by this very number, 2 pi. Okay, and this is just a number. So when I do that, on my right side now, 2 pi divided by 2 pi is just 1 single radian. So I've got my unit rate for radians. That's awesome. But on my left side, I have 360 divided by 2 pi. Now again, just like here, I can reduce this and simplify as much as possible. But I'm going to leave that pi symbol in there so it is still the most accurate. But I can reduce the 360 and the 2. So I can reduce that down to 1, and 360 divided by 2 leaves me with 180. So, in fact, 1 radian is equal to 180 over pi degrees. Okay? And this is the conversion rate. Right? 1 radian equals 180 over pi degrees. This is the conversion rate I'm going to use when converting from radians back into degrees. So this is where these formulas come from. So take a look at the next little box to summarize what that looks like.